So what happens to teenagers charged as adults, as we seen what just happened in that tragedy in that school in Georgia? Now, I was one of those kids when I was younger that was charged as an adult when I was very young. I was 15 years old, and it's called being direct filed. What being direct filed means is that you've committed a crime. For me, it was armed robbery at the time on a drug dealer, but murder, it could be anything like that. And they feel that no matter what, you need to be charged as an adult and enter the adult system. But you're not convicted yet. So what they do is they direct file you. And every county jail has a floor. And it is one of the most craziest, chaotic floors you will ever be on. The floor in my county was the 12th floor. And it was notorious for violence, corruption. The COs would come in there and beat the dog shit out of us because we were young kids. A lot of us going through puberty. Some have just made it to barely 15 years old, in there for murder, armed robberies, attempted murders, just so much violence and crazy shit. You see young kids in there, 15, 16, for rapes, just brutal shit. These are all teenagers, and they keep you up there until you're eventually convicted, or you're able to get a youth offender sentence, or maybe get yourself back down to the juvenile justice system. And they keep you up there until you turn 18 or till you get sentenced. While I was up there, it is crazy. I've seen the most notorious inmates you can imagine. I've seen Nathaniel Brazil. I've seen a dude, JT, who was involved in a very, very infamous shooting out where I'm from. So many. And it was like just war. And they would come in there with the doom squad because everybody's flushing their toilets, because there's a bunch of kids that are angry. They're mad at the world. They don't know why they're mad. They're violent. They don't know why they're violent. They have all these problems, but at the same time, they're emotional kids that are crying and missing their mom. It's such a crazy, twisted world to live in. And that was my introduction to being a man. When you get direct filed, you're either going to go to a youth offender sentence in Florida, which means you're basically going to go to a YO camp, and you're going to go there for 1 to 6 years, depending on your split with probation, which are crazy. A lot of fighting, a lot of stabbing, but it's basically a gladiator school. It's where you learn and you learn the system, you learn the organizations, you learn how to fight, you learn how to make weapons. It teaches you everything. A lot of violence, and that's where you build your reputation from. Then there's other ones that will turn 18, 19, because YO is usually about 14 to 22 years old, basically. But that doesn't mean you're going to spend your whole time in YO. So once you go to YO, you might be there for a little while, but if you get caught up in too much shit, or you have too much violence in your jacket, they're going to put you directly on the adult side. And it's obviously more diabolical, but I was relieved to get out into the JIT camp, as we call it, the YO camp, because it wasn't that it was scarier, it was just non-stop fighting. It's more of a boot camp setting, and the COs will beat the dog shit out of you like drill instructors, and it's very boot camp like, but inmates are getting stabbed and getting the shit beat out of them. You're getting a heart check. Yes, the notorious heart check. If you don't know what that is, it's when you walk in a cell and nobody knows you, a dorm. Basically, you're gonna have to show what you're about. Dudes are gonna try you, steal your food. You're gonna fight a couple weeks straight of fightings and stabbings, get hit with locks. Some dudes that don't pass, that are not claiming a gang correctly, that they were saying they were, they get broomsticks in their, it's fucking crazy. It's called the initiation heart check, or test of heart, as some other people call it. Then you have other people that get sentenced to life, like school shooters or whatever, that are real young, and they might go to YO for maybe 1, 2, 3 years. But once they're about 19, you're going for the adult side immediately. And sometimes you don't even get that lucky. But going through the direct file system, getting charged as an adult, but still being around a bunch of young juveniles or young dudes in their 19, 20, early 20s, it is crazy, because you have a bunch of young men filled with hate, testosterone, doing a gang of time, and they still have that side of them where, they're emotionally need their mother, need their father. But at the same time, these are like young, grown-ass men that are killing, stabbing. They're in there for double homicides. Some of them are in there for rapes of like 4 or 5 women, like the Dunbar Village. Man, when I was doing time with them, these dudes were in prison for getting in a fight over a bicycle, and they came back to the guy's house, pulled out a bunch of guns on the kids who they took the bike from, and fought fist fight, and they pulled out the guns on him and his mom and made them have intercourse together, and left and threw all chemicals on them. Fucking crazy. These dudes weren't even old enough to smoke cigarettes yet. And I remember, seeing them, and then, we went on our separate ways, and we were met up in an adult institution later on. And one of them was talking like, yeah, I'm gonna get out, fuck that. Because they made a law, if you're under the age of 18, I think, and something isn't fully developed in your brain, you can't get a life sentence, because they all got life sentence. So I'm gonna be out soon. I remember him coming back saying that, and then going back from outside court to the cell we were all in confinement. And they're all like, what happened? You fucking piece of shit. Because, dude, they would get tortured, beaten. I have a whole video on that. And he got 45 years. The judge's like, fuck you, motherfucker. It's crazy to see kids, that's what I'm saying, young teenagers that have to be men, that have to be violent, savage men. And it just builds you for when you go to the adult side or when you get out of YO. And going through YO, going through the youth offender boot camps and the programs and all the stuff I went through, level 8s and level 10s at the time when they had it, the COs or the officers, they would beat the dog shit out of us. It was to the point that they would be killing kids. I mean, the boot camp I was in, they beat this kid to death in Miami, and they had to shut that boot camp down. All of us went to the prison. That was the hardest part of it all, was the constant chaos between the inmates. Everybody was just fighting, stabbing constantly. The COs would make us fight, and if you didn't fight, you were just completely dogged out on every level. So by the time you make it to the adult side or you get into the adult system, you're a fucking savage. And that's what happened with me, is after being direct filed, in the beginning, I was bullied, man. Like I had to fight all the time. I was losing fights. I was a 15-year-old. I never experienced this type of shit. I thought I was tough, and just fight after fight after fight after fight, just getting hit with locks, just constant. I told myself, I will never be a victim again. These motherfuckers won't jump me. I'm gonna get off first. And there is, it turns you into a calloused warrior, and you're not even 18 years old yet. And then you get to the adult side and you learn real quick, because you just don't give a fuck. Because all you've learned in your entire teenage years isn't how to better yourself or go to school or do this, You just learn that the COs are corrupt. They're going to force you to fight. And if you don't, they're going to torture you. That it's like a kamikaze fight, because the COs and the Doom Squad that come in there with the boots, they torture us. They come in there and beat the shit out of us. So it's us against them. It's the only way. It's a losing battle, but that's all we have is that fight. And that's what you learn as a teenager. Now, I get it. You're young, but regardless, you commit a crime, you got to do the time. But as young men, there should be some type of help. I understand if you're a grown-ass adult and you've been doing this your whole life, yeah, you fucked up, do your time. But they should have some type of prevention for these youngsters. Instead, all we learn is violence. We learn that we can't trust any law enforcement. We learn how to make knives, where to stab. I mean, you got kids that are 17 years old showing you the book Grey's Anatomy, showing you where to stab somebody. Constant Friday night fights where the officers are gambling on us kids, just fight constantly. And it's a trip going through that system and then going to the adult side of the prison. I think in California they call it YA, and other places have different names, but it's all the same. And then seeing dudes 10 years, 15 years later in my bid and saying, holy shit, I was in, YO with them. I was on the 12th floor with them, and they're still in here for life or for 30 years. And some of them are just so fucking crazy savages. They're still in their second childhood. They're all in a gang. They're running the shit. They're stabbing. They caught 30 more years. And then other ones, somehow find God or find peace. And it's not like they're just doing it for help, because I've seen how they're living. They're savages. And they were just so tired of it, And when I talked to one of my close friends, Tank, he just said, man, I feel like I've been fighting my whole life, bro. I can't do this anymore, man. I need peace. And his own gang, his own organization were like, oh, you're soft, oh, you're weak. But it's like, who's really soft and weak? But that's the mentality they learn. That's why you see so many youngsters get out from YO for whatever and come back with 3 murders on them for a gang homicide or kill somebody in an armed robbery, because it's learned that That's your home. This is who you are, and this is all you'll ever be. Stay out, stay free.